Hello everyone and welcome back to the Mindful Homestead. My name is Jack. If you're new here, it's another cold, not that cold, but it's another dreary day on the homestead. I feel like every single video I've done for you guys in the last few weeks has been overcast and cloudy and a little bit of snow on the ground, but not a lot. And that's just how we've been rolling here in New Hampshire lately. We've been burning wood because the price of oil is high and we are out of wood that we've got stored in the house. We're also out of kindling. So I'm gonna get the wagon, I'm gonna fire up the splitter, and I'm gonna split up a bunch of wood that we've got on the pile into fresh kindling. But while I do that, I wanna talk to you about something that I've seen a lot in the news and on Facebook and Instagram lately, people talking about, and that's the price of eggs. I was in our local grocery store the other day, and the price of eggs, and I'm talking just standard white eggs from, you know, warehouse battery chickens. You know, the cheapest eggs you can get raised on factory farms, they were $5.50 a dozen. And we just raised our price on a dozen eggs to our customers, our very small egg base of customers, to $5 a dozen. So store cheapo eggs are now cheaper than New Hampshire raised farm eggs. To understand where egg prices are now, you kind of need to understand the mechanics of United States egg production. And this is super complicated, but I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of it. So farms here in the United States raise about 110 billion eggs a year. Remember when I said it wasn't that cold outside? It's a little bit colder than expected. So that includes all eggs, whether you're cage-free, you're free range, your battery hen, your like factory farm type stuff. It includes all of it. Virtually all of the hens that lay the eggs that you buy in stores are eating grain. They might not all be eating the same grain, but some are eating corn, some are eating wheat, some are eating soy, some are eating a combination of the bunch. All of those hens are eating grain. All of those hens are put in a place, regardless of whether they're free range or battery, that you can maximize the space that you're using for egg production, so they're kind of crowded. And all of those hens are going to be susceptible to a lot of the same illnesses. The first reason you're going to see eggs so expensive right now is front and center, avian flu. When you have birds cajoled together in tight quarters, you're going to see birds dying of illnesses. And once you see avian flu get into a flock, no matter how it gets into it, it's going to spread quickly and it's going to take out a lot of birds. And a lot of the time, in order to prevent the spread of avian flu, you're going to see birds euthanized as well. Now, don't shoot the messenger here. I'm not endorsing or discrediting any conspiracy theories you may see out there, or any, I guess I should say theories. Any theories you may see out there about the validity of avian flu. The truth of the matter is, whether you believe avian flu or not, up to 47 million layers were gone as a result of this avian flu in the United States this year. California itself saw 4 million dead or euthanized due to avian flu of a laying flock of just over 15 million total. So you're talking a third of California's egg production wiped right off the shelf there. That's going to be nail number one in the coffin. If we're being honest, and through the research I've done, and if you look at a few trade magazines, a lot of that laying flock that we've lost in the last year due to avian flu has actually come back online. What we're seeing now in terms of price hikes on eggs due to avian flu is essentially just the kind of the catching up factor. It's not going to hit immediately. The price of eggs are not just going to go up immediately when something happens. It's going to kind of filter down. The reason why we're seeing it now in January of 23 and winter of, December of 22 that just passed is that we headed into the holidays. Egg usage is up. In general, egg usage is up. One statistic I actually found while I was researching this video from the USDA said that egg consumption among Americans is actually up 12% per capita from 2012 to 2021. If that's true, that's actually outpacing the consumption of red meat going up. And as you head into the holidays and you head into winter, more people are baking, more people are making cookies. So they're using eggs just more often, whether they're making desserts or breakfasts at home. In general, in December, January, egg use just trends up. So you've got increased egg consumption overall, and then a time of year where more people are eating eggs. And then you've got the global mess that is worldwide geopolitical agriculture. Which is about as organized as this pile of firewood right here. You might remember how at the start of COVID, industry across the world was affected with large factories being shut down because of the fear of transmission. And fertilizer factories were not immune to that. In 2021, we saw a shortage of fertilizer, which led to a spike in prices on fertilizer, which led to a spike in costs for farmers to raise the grain that essentially feeds those chickens across the United States and the world. And not just chickens, every aspect of it was hit. You saw beef prices going up, you saw pork prices going up. We had to raise our prices last year because of the cost of feed. Throughout all of that, the price of eggs crept up a little, but not a ton. Here's where things start getting a little bit crazy. Last February of 2021, Russia invaded Ukraine. And right off the bat, we can see the price of grain in Europe just skyrocket. Whether it's corn, whether it's wheat, it goes right up. And that doesn't affect prices here in the US because our grain reserves at the time were largely what they were. It was February, so all of the grain that we had harvested here in the United States that previous summer and fall was in silos, it was being stored, it was already being turned into feed for animals, and it was what we had. That grain wasn't all of a sudden going to get pumped out of a silo, put onto a truck, and shipped over to Europe. This past summer, however, with the war still going on in Ukraine, if you're not familiar, Ukraine is largely Europe's breadbasket. That's where a lot of their grain, a lot of their corn, a lot of their crops that they use for animal feed are going to come from, along with other places in the region, but Ukraine's a big one. And if you've watched the news, you've seen that farmers' fields in Ukraine are not necessarily being used for growing grain. They are being used as battlegrounds for tanks, which means Ukraine didn't grow much grain this year. And now as the winter wears on, you're seeing a situation here in the States where American grain that previously would have stayed here and been used to feed animals in America has been shipped over to Europe because the price of grain in Europe is extremely high right now. So in an effort to keep that grain here and for grain mills and feed mills and people who use this stuff to have access to it, the price here in the States has gone up as well. We saw it this year with pig grain. We started the season at around $4.50 a ton for grain for our pigs, and we ended the season as high as $700 a ton for grain for our pigs. And if we go all the way back to the beginning of this video, you'll remember that I said that those chickens that lay eggs for the United States, regardless of what type they are, they all eat grain. They all eat feed that's been milled from grain that up until now has been largely produced in the United States. You're seeing grain imports in the United States going up. You're seeing the price of grain here in the US going up. The price of feed has consequently gone up. And now, almost 2 years into this whole global economic mess, we're now finally seeing the price of eggs go up. Now, I feel the need to reiterate that I'm not complaining about all this. If anything, it has made people aware of the plight of the small farmer and maybe enlighten them that on a scale like this, when we're charging $5 a dozen for eggs, which we weren't even, we were charging $3 a dozen and just accepting it as a loss. But now that we're charging $5 a dozen for eggs and slightly more for duck eggs, people have kind of wised up and realized, oh, it's not. Eggs don't cost $2.50 a dozen? Ask any small farmer with hens and they'll tell you, I don't know how they can get eggs to $2.50 a dozen. I mean, they are profitable at $2.50 a dozen. Part of it is government subsidies. The other part is that they are able to buy feed at a scale that is so large that they can get it for essentially pennies on the pound compared to, $20 a 50-pound bag for for the small farmer. But it's finally a discussion that we're able to have without us as farmers being the one to bring up why our eggs are more expensive. People are now asking us, hey, why are the eggs in the store expensive? And we can counter with the argument of why our eggs are expensive and why in the kind of grand scheme of things, it's probably better to buy your eggs from a local farmer anyway. That's going to be it for me on this video. I am going to get some more wood in the cart. I'm going to bring it out. I'm going to finish splitting it. And then